Hello and welcome to 7 for 12 with me, Steve HARMISON and Jon Norman. Well, we've got a winner, the World Test Championship. We've waited 6 days to get there. And for me, the right team has won. They were magnificent, New Zealand. Touch and go whether it was going to be a draw. I thought last night there was only going to be one team that was going to win, and they did. Well, Jon, we've got a winner. We've got a winner, yes. And I thought New Zealand were absolutely magnificent with ball and with bat. How did you see today's play?
Well, look, I think any format that essentially lasts for 6 days, including 2 where no play was possible, that essentially goes to the last session, the last 2 hours on day 6, where you still don't know who's going to win, has got something going for it. So credit to the organisers, and you don't often say that about the ICC, for insisting upon that reserve day and also making use of it, because in the end the weather didn't make any difference whatsoever to the fact that we got a result. We did get a result, and we got a result because of fine bowling from Kane Williamson at the top of the day, or the start of the day, prizing out those 2 key wickets, Virat Kohli and Pujara, and then backed up by the likes of Wagner, Trent Boult, and even though Tim Southey dropped a catch which looked like it was going to be costly and looked like it was going to prove your point yesterday absolutely correct, Henry Nicholls took an equally brilliant catch to dismiss Pant, and once that wicket went down, India fell in a heap, setting New Zealand just 139 to win the inaugural World Test Championship final. And whilst they lost a couple of wickets, and there were a few nervy moments, and indeed Kane Williamson, without DRS, would have been out for 1, I think, and it would have been a far different tale. In the end, New Zealand did it comfortably, and Harmy, you've got to say, although they had the choice of some of the decisions and of course won a crucial toss, but considering they beat India at home, and they've beaten them here, then surely they're worthy World Test Championship final finalists and winners. Absolutely,
100%. I think they have deserved the little bit of luck they've rode, because you earn and make your own luck, as the cliche and the saying goes. I thought they deserved everything they got. I thought that both bat, ball, not just in this Test match, since they've been in the UK, they've been first class. They've carried on from where they were, especially at Edgbaston. They would have won at Lords if it hadn't been for a little bit of a rain delay. But I think it goes back further than that, to be honest. I think it goes back all the way through the last 18 months, 2 years of COVID and the World Test Championship. And Kane Williamson is rightly standing there with the trophy, because he's put in some ridiculously standout performances. I can think if he's 250 plus against Pakistan, in New Zealand when they won by an innings, and the way Jameson in that game got 11 wickets in the match. So I think you look at the way these guys have performed, they've been absolutely first class, and they deserve every plaudit they get, because during this game they got the conditions right. They earned the right to sort of get the key moments right. They put pressure on the Indian batsmen at key times, especially the big guns, the Pujaras and the Kohlis, to sort of knock them over. And I think they're well deserved the overall title, or the crown of World Test champions, especially for the next 2 years.
Absolutely, well said. And look, I thought it was incredibly fitting that it was Ross Taylor that scored the winning runs. That might be his last Test match. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a decision that's already been made that might be made public, but we shall see. That's pure conjecture. But for viewers of 7 for 12, please go and check out a brilliant interview between Harmy and Ross Taylor that was recorded just before the England series, looking back at Ross Taylor's, up until that point, favourite Test match of all time. I think it might change now, but
just a little bit.
Yeah, go and have a look at that, and don't forget to subscribe and like and review, and we'll answer your questions here on the channel. But got to get to the main bit of the show, and that is 7 for 12. Right then, Harmy, I've got my phone at the ready. I'm going to press start. We've got 7 minutes and 12 seconds to go. Let's start with Kane Williamson, player of the match. And look, we talked about him before, but essentially this guy bowled, let me just check my stats, 24 overs and he didn't concede a boundary. His average after 8 test matches is under 15. He took 2 for 30 in the innings. Those 2 wickets were the captain, as well as Pujara, the most important 2 wickets of the day. And let's not forget, it was his late order runs in first innings for New Zealand that provided the difference between the 2 sides. Tim Southee as well. But when you look at the way that India's batting card folded in both innings and the way that New Zealand's didn't, Jamieson has done it with the ball and with the bat. He's still got an average around 45. What an introduction to Test cricket for him. And you know, if he can stay fit, he is going to be a huge part of this Kiwi side for the next 5-10 years.
He is, yeah, and it's an easy game, as they say, for Kyle Jamieson at the moment. There's a lot of talk about being questioned when he goes to the subcontinent. He goes to Asia and plays over there. New Zealand don't play a great deal of Test match cricket. I think Tim Southee's numbers will tell you the amount of time he's been around and played, nearly as long as the likes of Anderson and Broad. And he's somewhere off when it comes to the numbers of Test matches played. So that'll keep him fit, which is great for New Zealand. I just thought this morning he was brilliant. I thought he was brilliant throughout the whole, other than probably 6 or 7 overs. I think he is bowled beautifully in English conditions and what you'd expect from a seamer who was probably 5'9", 5'10", as opposed to 6'8", 6'9", because a shorter bowler will pitch that ball a little bit fuller, make the batsman play, and anybody that makes the batsman play that's anywhere near 6'4" and above, Jameson at 6'8", is going to make the ball bounce. And when you've got to play, you've got to consistently play. You just get the odd one to bounce, and all of a sudden the keeper and the slips are in the business. And I thought he was excellent. I really did. First day he bowled a bit too short. For his own admission, came back the next day, didn't bowl a ball and about 40 balls to Virat Kohli on the stumps. And then the second, when he came out for the first up the next morning, I think 7 out of 15 balls were going to hit the stumps, and he managed to get the Indian captain out. And there's a lot of wickets from an Indian fan point of view where you'll say, what a shot that was, what a poor shot, what a shocking shot that was. I think you can go back a little bit and have a look at like 15, 20 balls before that, and the pressure that Jameson and Bolt and Southee and Wagner had put on the Indian batsmen. And all of a sudden, when they do get something where their eyes light up, they do feel as though they can get their hands free. All of a sudden, their hands and feet don't work together. Their head falls over. And by the time they've got themselves a little bit balanced, they've nicked it and they're out. And I think that is something, players that have played the game will say that's what good bowlers can do. They don't look to get a wicket every ball. They look to set a batsman up. And when I looked at the Virat Kohli wicket and the Pujara wicket on day 6,
and the Pant drop as well.
And the Pant drop.
That was all about the setup, wasn't it?
It was all about the setup, and I just think that was total pressure by the big fella from New Zealand, and I thought he bowled brilliantly, and he deserved man of the match. He did deserve man of the match. I think they all played their part to get themselves to win in the World Test Championship over 6 days. But I think the difference was a guy who I didn't think would play, and I didn't think he would play for one reason. That's continuity of selection. That New Zealand have got themselves in this position because he probably would have played for Wagner. I think they would have gone with Wagner because of loyalty to the way Wagner is rolling the side. I just think they've got it spot on when the selection, and to play the big fella, I think he was just the icing on the cake.
Do you? What was also interesting was that Trent Boult was held back. He actually, Trent Boult was a guy that's been flown over here specifically to play their number one bowler. He didn't bowl for the first hour because Jamieson was bowling, and then Southee was doing a nice job at the other end. From an Indian perspective, they're going to be pretty pleased to see the back of Jamieson, because for all of England's fast bowling talent, we do not possess a bowler that bowls like Jamieson. In fact, I can't think of a bowler in world cricket, possibly Jason Holder, but at about 10 miles an hour slower. There's nobody that bowls like Jamieson in this country, is there?
No, not quite, but I wouldn't say Stuart Broad's a tall guy. He gets the maximum out of his height. It's not so much I I just think the build-up of pressure. I look at Broden Anderson, and I think Broden Anderson might be looking at this last 6 days and thinking, you know what, if this India side, if this is the way India are looking to play, and we get favourable conditions, because remember, John, over the course of five Test matches, 10 innings, they're not going to get what we got at the Hampshire Bowl, where overheads and the ball's zipping around and it's moving like that. Yeah, it's going to be flat. There's going to be times where it's going to be flat, and England have to sit in. But if we do get favourable conditions and we do get the ball moving around a bit, we can see there's some vulnerabilities in that top order of India. Like England have got the same problem. Don't get me, don't think this is me having a go at India, because I think England's problems are a lot worse than what India's are. But we've got Broad Anderson, we've got Wood, we've got bowlers who can exploit and get the ball to move laterally. And we've seen if the ball does move laterally, the Indian batsmen during this time, and they're still acclimatising, England could be in the game and expose that middle order, because not last time he was here, Virat was brilliant last time he was here. I just sensed that his balance wasn't there. He got hit on the head earlier, I think off Jameson or Southey, and it just knocked his balance a little bit, and he was feeling for his off stump. If England can get Virat in that position, like they did 2 tours ago when Anderson put him on toast a little bit, and all of a sudden alarm bells will go around that Indian dressing room, ball moves, England would have a chance, because the one thing about the England bowling attack is it is as good in favourable conditions as what New Zealand's is, and it'll be a lot of pressure on the Indian batsmen, because if they feel as though, right, we'll see the back of New Zealand, off they go, get on a plane, they can take the Test Championship with them and breathe a sigh of relief. Well, I don't think that's the case, because I think England's bowling attack is a very, very good one as well.
It's not just about the young guns, though, is it? It's about the experienced old hands. And one of the things that interested me was that when Ross Taylor went out to bat with Kane Williamson, at a stage where I think Ashwin had bowled about 4 overs without conceding a run, there was, the Indian fielders were crowding around the bat. There was loads going on. Williamson had been given out LBW. He successfully overturned it. Williamson said to Taylor, "It'll get easier. Batting will get easier." You needed that experience at that time. Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. I mean, okay, maybe in 2 years' time, Williamson will be back doing the same thing. But essentially, it was all about the now. And Williamson did what he did in the first innings, and that is he played his way. And he did not let anything get into his bubble. He just waited and waited and waited, and it paid off.
It did. It paid off, and he absorbed the runs that he needed to get for his team, where the pressure that the Indian bowler, which I thought India bowled quite well as well, and the pressure that the New Zealand bowlers put on the Indian batting unit, every now and again they played away from the body, they played a false shot, 71 for 7 in the first innings, 100 for 8 in the second innings. Well, while you've got somebody like New Zealand with a New Zealand captain, and you've got somebody there that's being comfortable in these sort of conditions, because not too dissimilar to home. He's played a bit at Yorkshire. The guy is very, very single-minded and driven to bat for long periods of time. He didn't chase that wide one, which would have opened the door for the rest of the middle order to come in and get exposed. I thought he was brilliant, and I thought when Ross Taylor, there was an element of luck as well. Williamson gets given out and then reversed DRS. Ross Taylor gets dropped off Pujara at slip, off Bumrah, who didn't bowl as well as we'd probably like, but he's still trying to acclimatise. All of a sudden, Henry Nicholls comes in, BJ Watler in his last game, still leading 70 or 80 to win. It's a different ball game, an absolute different ball game. There was one over, I thought, just started to tip the balance. Ross Taylor got a few away off Ishant Sharma. He came on for 1 over. He didn't bowl a very good over. He got a few away, and then it just seemed to relax Ross Taylor. His foot movement and his balance was a lot better. And then he got into the partnership with Kane Williamson. And like both of them said, Williamson and Taylor after the game, the longer you bat, the easier it was going to be, and the more pressure that was going to be on the Indian bowlers to make something happen. And the two experienced guys stood up and got the team over the line.
Absolutely. Look, we've gone way over 7 minutes and 12, but if you can't do that for a World Test Championship final, then what's the point? Plenty still to discuss. We're going to be looking at the format of the World Test Championship as a whole, and very shortly, it's Harmy's tips, and we've got Moment of the Day. Well, there were some wonderful moments of the day. There were some painful moments of the day. BJ Watling, on the occasion of his final ever Test match, essentially dislocating his finger, trying to complete a run out. But the moment involved Rishabh Pant, and of course it's going to, isn't it? Always does. Tim Southey had dropped him on 5, and then he went for a big booming drive against Trent Boult. The ball going up leading edge, flying up in the air, and Henry Nicholls had an absolute age to collect himself as the ball dropped over his shoulder. He knew as it was hanging in the air how important a moment it was. He took the catch, and from that point onwards, India's batting just crumbled, and it was New Zealand's game.
Yeah, that was the big moment. We said last night that a lot of what happened in this game from an India point of view, came on the young man's shoulders, the young left-handed wicketkeeper's shoulders. If India were to get Kohli and Pujara to launch, decent-ish lead, Pant could take the game away from New Zealand and give New Zealand a crazy 2.5 hours at the end of the game to either save the game and India go over to get going. And I thought Pant come in and played well. I thought he had a go. He played his usual game, and he just went for one big hit too many. Could you be critical? No, because that's the way this boy plays, and I don't like saying that. But I think if you start trying to rein Rishabh Pant in, then you will start seeing a different player, and that's not what you want. You want the free spirit to go out, and he hit it a mile in the air. And it was one of them catches that Henry Nicholls, you're running away from you're going away from the action, you're chasing the ball, you're looking up and you're thinking, right, I've got this, and then all of a sudden, I haven't got this, and then you put your hands out, and then you think, oh, my hands need to be a bit further out, and the ball's still not on its way down, it's still going up. So I think when you look at it, Henry Nicholls, very, very fine fielder, in the same position right at the end of the game with 10 runs to win. Kane Williamson hit one up in the air, and Jasprit Bumrah was underneath it, and never at any point did I think the bowler was going to catch it. I must admit, when Nicholls was underneath it, he looked as though he was calm. He looked as though he was going to catch it, and he did. And I think once Pant got out, I think that was the beginning of the end for India. And then there was only one team going to win, and that was New Zealand.
Yeah, there was some other brilliant moments. I thought the crowd, it just made such a difference having a crowd in. That's something we're going to talk about very shortly. But there was a brilliant bit of commentary, actually. The camera panned to the New Zealand fans who, to a man, all had their tops off, waving them over their heads. And Simon Dawell on commentary said there was about 200 of them. And he said, oh, there's a town. That's a whole town's population in New Zealand. Yeah. And then Dinesh Karthik came in straight off the back and said, that's just a family in India. And it was a quality line. Some really good commentary throughout this series. And yeah, brilliant end to a brilliant day. Look, we're going to have a look at the World Test Championship as a whole coming up now on Harmy's Tips. Okay, so we know that the World Test Championship final is going to be part of the calendar for the next, well, at least the next 8 years. Where it's going to be, we don't know. But if you were to suggest any changes at all, what would they be? But also, what has worked as well? Because, we have had a result despite 2 days being rained off. We've had fans in from both sides. It's been a good sporting wicket. It's been a good balance between bat and ball, and both teams have had enough time to acclimatise. So there's plenty going for it. This isn't just a question of slamming it, and people were slamming it 3 or 4 days in. But if there was any improvements to make or changes, what would they be?
I think it's a hard one on what changes you can make. I think you work out what worked. I thought the ball works. I think that the Duke ball stays longer, stays harder. You've got more of a contest. I still think England's the right place, is as good a place to have it. You could go Barbados, you could go Cape Town. It's very difficult because you need to put it in place and then build a championship around it. And then teams get there. All of a sudden, New Zealand had a little bit of a head start. I think that didn't work. I think the two teams need to be in the more or less landing at the same time. Landing if it's in the UK or if it's in Africa or if it's in Dubai, where a couple of people have mentioned where it would be good to have because of the weather. I'm just not sure the pitch in Dubai would be would be suitable to make a contest between bat and ball.
You do need a crowd as well, don't you? I mean, you need to have people in there.
Yeah, you need a crowd. I think Lords would be great. You know, the home of cricket. You know, an SCG. I played in the test in 2005. The SCG was probably a fine venue for it. The 6th day worked for me. 6th day worked. We need a result. You don't want to have a draw for a World Test Championship. 6th day, if it means going into another day. You didn't really need an extra day off back that because of. But not many times do you lose 2 days, 2 full days in
I can't remember. In the 7 years I've been working at talkSPORT, I've not seen.
It's sod law, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But they made up for it because they had the reserve day, so that wasn't even a problem in itself.
And that worked.
That worked. Yeah. How about this for a suggestion then? The winner of the World Test Championship, that's where the next final is played. So Absolutely. In 2 years' time, it's in New Zealand.
You earn the right.
How about that?
Right. You earn the right.
And New Zealand might not be there, but because they've won it this time, there'll be interest in it. So there'll be. It's almost like an additional prize, isn't it? So New Zealand now know in 2 years' time they've got the chance to play the World Test Championship final in their own country, and of course New Zealand would be a great country because the other great thing with a country like New Zealand is that if New Zealand weren't there and it was say between Australia and India, well, you'd have thousands of Australians coming over the ditch. And you've got a huge expat population in New Zealand who were born in India. So you would get the crowds in. I think that's quite a good idea.
I think as well, you've got to fit it in around the other schedules. And having a northern hemisphere summer, there's less teams playing around the world. So I think it's easier to fit it in the UK. So Lords. I think Lords is a home of cricket. I think that would be still for me is the iconic venue. I think if you asked any cricketer from outside England, where would they like to play a World Cup final or a World Test final, I think a lot of people would say Lords. I think they would say Lords. You mention SCG or whatever. So I think Lords would be good. I think the concept has been very, very good. There's been more onus on trying to win games. So captains are risking a little bit losing games to win games to get Test Championship points. That's better. That's beneficial for the game of cricket. That's a contest. Bat ball goes all the way through to day 5. There's been a lot of four-day games because people are looking to force a result, whether that is because they want more points or just the invention of the better of white ball cricket going. That cricket is moving forward and fast forward. But at the end of the day, we've had a COVID 18 months. We probably haven't played as many games as they would like to. There will be things they need to iron out. But I think all in all, Test match cricket is going forward. India being the way they are with Test match cricket, and the captain, Virat Kohli, the way he sees Test match cricket, I think that's a benefit and a plus and a tick in the box that Test match cricket is still alive. And we've got a worthy winner in New Zealand.
Brilliant stuff. Harmy, thanks for your company over the last few days. It's been absolutely terrific. 7 for 12 will return. We've got a brilliant interview. Come back and watch Steve HARMISON sitting down with his old England teammates and captain, Michael Vaughan, who is the guest of this week's Test of Time, going back to Old Trafford in 2005 and that famous Ashes Test match, one of 5 famous Ashes Test matches from 2005. Absolutely unmissable. Brilliant stuff from him. And of course, if you got this far, it'd be great if you could subscribe, like, review, and leave a comment, and we'll answer it next time. But for now, thanks for watching.